G'day, I'm Adam David Collins, the author of Jewel of the Stars, and today I'm doing a book tag. It's the All Kinds of Heroes book tag, and this was originally created by Laura A. Grace. Laura is a booktuber and the author of 2 books, Dear Author, Letters from a Bookish Fangirl, and Teen Lines, a poetry collection. And Laura is also very passionate about supporting indie authors, so I heartily recommend you check out her channel. So this book tag has 10 prompts, and they're about different types of heroes. So let's launch right in. The first prompt is In the Shadows. Quiet hero who is more in the shadows than the spotlight. So for this one, I chose Sarah Corden from Riftwalkers and the Pierced Veil by Robin Parrish. Now, I chose Sarah for this because she's not some big world-famous superhero that is always on the news and has statues erected of her. She's an FBI agent. She works in the background and just does her job. And yet, in the first book of this series, she saves an entire town from a supernatural invasion. So I thought she was quite worthy of this role. The second prompt is I'm no hero. A hero who doesn't acknowledge being one. And for this, I chose Kaladin from The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. So Kaladin is not your typical hero, although I definitely believe he is heroic. He starts off the beginning of the story as a slave, and as he goes along, he comes pretty close to suicide, to be honest, because his life is just a wreck, and he's got nothing to live for, no hope. And then he has a revelation, and he starts to find purpose in his life, and he turns around not only his own life, but the lives of others. Now, he has some issues. He has some prejudices against the Light Eyes, who are the nobles in this world. But slowly, over time, he starts to overcome some of these issues as well. And as he grows in power, where he begins to take on his magical abilities, he essentially becomes Superman. So, a great journey of a character very much becoming a hero, but I don't think he would call himself that. He's got too much baggage. He sees too much of his own flaws to really appreciate what he's becoming. The third prompt is Weak in the Knees, a swoon-worthy hero. Now, it took me a while to think about this one. I don't know, I think it is a little less socially acceptable for a male to swoon over fictional characters than it is for females. But in the end, the answer was obvious. Of course, it's my wife.
Hold on, Adam. You can't pick your wife. It has to be a character from a book.
Interesting point, computer. However, my wife does count. If you look at the very beginning of my book, Linessa's Curse, you will see the dedication page where it is dedicated to her. So, my wife is referenced by name in a fiction book. It totally counts. Now, my wife is amazing, and she really is my hero. She stands up to adversity like no one I've ever known. Her greatest dream in life is as a nurse is to help other people, and she's come up against so many roadblocks in her education, in her career, and things that would make so many other people just give up. But Linda never gives up. She gets knocked down and she gets back up again. And, like all of us, she might take a moment while she's down to just, feel a bit sad about what's going on. But she never stays down there. She always gets back up. She always keeps fighting. And I admire her. I'm proud of her. And I call her my hero. And, we've been married for 16 years. And she definitely still makes me weak in the knees. So, yep, that's my pick. The fourth prompt is called Hate to Love, a hero you disliked in the beginning but loved by the end. And this is a hard one to talk about without giving spoilers. But I chose Wraithen from Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This was very much a character that I hated at the start of the book. And by hated, I don't mean, I hated to read about him and I wished he wasn't in the book. No, the kind of character you love to hate. Or as this prompt says, hate to love. But by the end of the book, there was no doubt that this guy was a hero, and he was treated as such. So, I really can't say more. But, yeah, go Rathan. He surprised me like no other character I've ever read in a book. It was cool. The fifth prompt is called Inspire to Action, a hero who inspired you to want to make a difference in the real world. For this one, I chose Parvin Blackwater from A Time to Die by Nadine Brandis. Now, in this world, characters all have a clock. It tells them how long they have to live. Parvin has 1 year to live. She knows she's going to die at the end of 12 months. And so she sets about to really try to make that year worthwhile, to do something useful and change the world. And she does change the world. Reading this book, it inspired me in a way that few fiction books ever have. It really did make me stop and think and examine my life and want to make changes in my own life. And for a novel to do that is pretty powerful. So, yeah, I think Parvin is worthy of that. And, yeah, lots of praise to Nadine Brandis for writing a book like that. The sixth prompt is Only One Can Win. A hero in a love triangle you wanted to win the girl's heart. So this was a tough one because I don't read a lot of books that have love triangles in them. In fact, the only one that I could really think of was The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. So at the beginning of this book, we're presented with Katniss and a bloke called Gale. And they're really close friends. They have been since childhood. They kind of do everything together. And when I see characters like that, it seems very logical and inevitable that they're the ones who are going to end up together. I mean, I very much believe that the best foundation for a romantic relationship is a strong friendship. And when you've got a male and a female that like each other that much, I mean, it's only logical, isn't it? As the story went on and we're introduced to Peter and we get to know him, I saw the logic in that as well. He's the quiet nerd, the kind of character that girls very rarely notice. And I can identify with that kind of character myself. We nerds don't always get the girl in stories, so when it does happen, it's kind of cool. So, ultimately I was kind of happy where that whole thing went. I don't know, make of all of that what you will. The seventh prompt is Otherworldly Hero. A hero who is from another world compared to the main character or side characters. Now for this, I chose Lewis from The Paradise War by Stephen R. Lawhead. What a trilogy this is. So this is a portal fantasy. So Lewis is a young university student in our world, and through the course of the book, he is transferred into the Celtic Otherworld. And in this world, it's very much, first century kind of Britain, very tribal, Celtic kind of culture, warriors, and at first he seriously does not fit in, but very gradually over time he becomes a part of this world, even becoming a very important person in this world. And it was just such a cool character journey. It's such a rich world that Lawhead created. And it really was a joy to see Lewis go from being, a contemporary modern person to being this warrior character in this other world. So I think he really fits that bill quite well. Great series. The eighth prompt is I'll think about it. Reluctant hero to walk the path asked or required of them. And for this, I chose Frodo from The Lord of the Rings. Now, Frodo is perhaps not your stereotypical reluctant hero. It's not that he doesn't want to help. It's not that he's selfish in any way. This is a good man, and he wants to do right by the world, which is why he ultimately takes on the role of taking the ring to Mordor. But it's definitely not his first choice in life. He's really quite content to stay in the Shire and just live out his days in happiness, eating food and dancing and drinking beer and smoking his pipe. he's very happy with that life. He doesn't need to go off into danger. He doesn't seem to have quite the same hunger for adventure that Bilbo had. Although even Bilbo took a while to come around. And then so to even leave home from the Shire took him a while to get there. And then in the Council of Elrond, reading his words, you can tell he really didn't want to volunteer himself, but he saw it was the right thing to do. He saw that no one else could do it. It was his task. And so, like a true hero, he stepped up and he said, I'll do this. It was reluctant. It wasn't what he wanted for his life, but he did it. The 9th prompt is no danger for you. A hero you want to protect at all costs. For this one, I chose Retza from the Under the Mountain series, specifically the final book, Caverns of the Deep. So during the climax of this book, and really of the whole series, Retza heads off on a dangerous mission to rescue another character who has been kidnapped and is going headlong into danger. And he goes after her, and I just remember reading this section of the story, just feeling that tension of, I didn't want harm to come to her, but I didn't want harm to come to him either. So I just remember kind of wanting to reach in and just protect these two characters, because there was some nasty stuff that was waiting for them at the other end of this mission. It's an interesting series. It's set in an underground world. Some really unique world building there. And it was written by Jeanette O'Hagan, so this is another series you might want to check out. The 10th and final prompt is not always kind. Hero who is rough around the edges. For this one, I chose Torrin Daniels from The Man He Never Was by James L. Rubart. So this really is a rough around the edges kind of guy. He really struggles with anger. It leads him to, be... I hesitate to say like he's not physically abusive, but his words, and he is not kind to his wife and children, and in the end it kind of costs him his marriage. And so through the course of this story is him trying to deal with this anger problem and come to terms with how he can really truly change inside. And it does have a happy ending. Don't want to say anything more than that, but yeah, this is a really interesting story about a very, very flawed hero, but I do call him a hero because he does go on this journey and he does deal with things and he does come out the other side. So that was the book tag. There's 10 very different kinds of heroes for you. Thank you again to Laura for creating this tag and for tagging me in it. Anyone who has managed to watch right through to the end of this video, thanks a lot, and consider yourself tagged. I'm also going to specifically tag my wife Linda. She hasn't made a video in quite some time, but this could be a fun one if she wanted to do it, but no pressure. So I hope you enjoyed this tag. Feel free to do it yourself. I'd be interested in what you choose. If you do this tag, let me know, and I'll check it out. Live long and prosper, and have a great indeterminate period of time between now and when you next watch one of my videos.